When we begin to understand biblical prophecy, what's about to happen next is going to affect the whole planet Earth. We lost our land, our culture, and our identity. There is a great awakening amongst the scattered tribes, and now we must return to the covenant of our forefathers. The Father chose out of all nations the nation of Israel. Okay, shalom, everybody. Welcome again to Awakening Ministries. My name is Kasada Bar, and we're going to be diving a little bit deeper as we do each week, if possible, on a very important topic that I've been working with. It's called The Horde That Sat on Many Waters. All right, this is going to be part 4. Once again, I find the book of Revelation very interesting, and I want to make sure that the information that I'm providing is as accurate as possible. So it's taken a lot longer than usual to go through the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, but I want to make sure that I take my time. And once again, the information is as accurate as possible. Better yet, based upon the information that we now have relatively now available to us, all right? I also want to share that there was something else that I wanted to share with the family. Men going God's way. All right. Again, men going God's way with Elder Gabar and his speaker, another dynamic brother by the name of Ricky. Make sure that you tune in to their podcast. They do a very good job. And actually, they're supposed to be going live today at 2 p.m. So if you get the chance, Mishra, check him out. There's going to be a wealth of information that your brother's going to share. He's going to be talking about the importance, or put it this way, the misunderstanding, I believe, on cutting hair. All right, so I'll leave that there. But without further ado, Mishra, all right, Shabbat Shalom to those of you that observed Shabbat today. Let's go ahead and get into action and do what the Father has allowed me to do today, which is to bring forth his word. Okay, so we're going to do the Father's prayer in Hebrew, and then we're going to do it in English. Abinu, Shabbat Shamayim, Yit Kodash Shemka, O Yit Barak Melkutka, Retsun Ka Yahiye Ishui, Ba Shamayim, U Ba Aretz, Ut At Ain Lakminu Tamadit, Umakulanu, Kata'atenu, Ka Asher Anachnu, Mukalim, U-a tabi anu layede, nasayon, u-sham ranu makal ra, and all esteem belongs to the Father, all right? All esteem belongs to the Father, and we thank the Father for sending his messengers, all right, his prophets, all those that taught the nation of Israel to return to the covenant. And ultimately now, we believe that Yahushua Ha'Mashiach is that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Israel. And so we give thanks. But I also want everybody to make sure that they recognize and fully understand that in the canonized writings that we have, we don't have the Mashiach presenting the Father's actual name, all right, to the people. And in Matthew, the 6th chapter, verse 9, he always, for me, showed respect and called the Father, all right? And I believe that was a sense of respect that the Mashiach had. All right, so I just wanted to throw that in here. I also wanted to share, Mishpachah, the way that I was taught once again back in 1992. And again, I find this style of praying Very interesting. All right. I'm not going to argue with language right now. I do know that the vowel pointing system that we have and the way that we're being told how to make pronunciations of these characters here is in question. All right. When we have these, what you want to call them, Sephardic Jews, you want to call them Ashkenazi Jews, is that Germanic vowel pointing system that gives you the pronunciation, I believe, is in question. All right. But anyway, we have Abanawa, Shabbat Shamayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahuah, Malak Wafka, Baba'a, Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathan Lanawa, Lakam Kal Yawum, Wasalak Lanawa, Kawab Wath Yanawa, Kastalak Lanawa, Kawab Wath Yanawa, Wala'a, Thabaya Anawa, Banasayawan, Abal, Hawashayanawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Walahala, Wahatha Paharath, Lahai Wulam Yum, and once again, Mishpachah, all esteem belongs to the Father through his Son, Yahushua Ha'Mashiach, who is that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Israel. All right. And again, Mishpachah, my name is Kasada Bar, and we're going to talk about the whore that sits on many waters. And this is Awakening Ministries. And I pray that you enjoy the lesson. And if there's any questions with anything that I'm about to say, please leave a comment. I also would like for you to do is to hit the like button. Hit the like button so we can improve the algorithm to this ministry. All right? Please, I'm begging you. Hit the like button. Even if you hit the dislike button, it is cool. No problem. We're doing this presentation according to slides. Meaning now is that show me the slide where you believe that I'm in error, I need to double check, and I have no issues, once again, with double checking any information that I'm going to be giving you this morning. We'll look over it, and let's reason like men and women, and let's talk about it, all right? Let's talk about it. Now, Mishpachah, what I have here, all right, what I have here to my far left is U.S. military bases around the world, all right? And then it has the U.S. controls about 850 bases in more than, let me put the bifocals on here, in more than, I think it says any country in the world. All right, so we have a total of 850 naval bases, all right, around the world. And it's increasing. The reason why I believe that this is important because I still believe that Bible prophecies are still in effect. And once again, everybody or anybody that knows me is that I don't subscribe to the preterist perspective on scripture, and I'm going to keep saying this, where they believe that every single Bible prophecy came to an end in 70 AD. I don't believe that. Now, I believe that America is an extension of Rome. So to your far right, you have Rome during the height of her empire. All right. Once again, you have Rome during the height of her empire in 117 AD. So in order for any nation to function, it must control the waters. All right. And so when you see this parallel picture here, where we see now during the Roman Empire, which is the fourth metal, it was very important for us to understand examples. It's very important for us to understand paths and patterns. And we see to the far left, America as it controls commerce, trade, export. And in order to do that, and even military bases, in order to do that, you must control the land, sea, and air. and America controls all of that. And during the first century, you see who? Rome controlling all of the import, export, and how commerce goes in with importing and trade. So nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. And what I would like to do today is try to elaborate on why I believe when you go to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, we're going to read verses 1 to 3, and see whether or not there is a parallel between Rome and America. Is there a parallel? All right, so let's continue on with the lesson. So, Mishpachah, I just want to basically just jump right into the lesson. All right, right into the lesson. What I want to do first is I want to read the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter again. All right, again, because the beauty about reading the Bible is that you can read it today, and then next month you'll get a more in-depth understanding of it, and you can read it again 6 months later, a year later, 3 years later. You can even get a greater understanding of it. Meaning now is that when you read the Bible, it's not like other books where a person stays stagnant. There's always more information that you can draw from it, which makes this book, I personally believe, so much more better, so much more unique than any other book that is out there. All right, so let's look at Revelation, the 17th chapter. I'm going to read verses 1 to 3, and we're going to go ahead and play ball here. It says now, Revelation, the 17th chapter, verses 1 through 3, I'm going to read. And there came one of the 7 messengers of angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, which is John the Revelator, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show thee, or unto thee, the judgment of the great whore that sat upon many waters. Now, I'm going to go back here a little bit. I'm going to make sure everybody's following along. To the far right, okay, the whore that sat upon many waters fits the description of Rome. Based upon my investigation, when I look at Rome during the first century, this is how Rome looked in 117 AD, and these are the controlling territories. Now, when you look to my far left again, the whore that sits upon many waters, all right, you look at now the influences that America has on the whole world today, all right? Especially now when we begin to look at what Donald Trump is actually doing. This guy came out of the gate making executive orders, making changes in politics. There's no more transgenderism. You're either a male or a female. This battle that's going on with a very important waterway, which we know as the Panama Canal. All of this stuff here we can't make up. And what has happened now is that when you look at Rome during the first period, or during the first era, or 1 AD, you see that this was a control of only land and waters, all right? But we have here now in the 21st century, here in 2025, we now see, I believe, Rome expanding, where it is now land, sea, air, and even space. America actually claims that they own airspace. So if another country was to invade America's airspace, that can even initiate or be a declaration of war by just invading airspace. So what I would like to do is to share what exactly did John the Revelator see while on the island of Patmos. What did he actually see. Now, let me read verse 2. Revelation 17, verse 2. Now, this whore that sit upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. That's going to be very important. The wine of her fornication. We need to be able to identify what is the wine that causes now the other nations to become intoxicated. Now, this word Babylon, I have been talking about this for a very long time. It is my understanding that during the first century, the prophets knew that Rome was Babylon. Let me say it again. They knew that Rome was Babylon. And they taught in what we call now code words. They called epithets. And so another code word or epithet for Rome during the first century was Babylon. You couldn't just come out and say, all right, Rome is Babylon, because any ill talking against Rome will lead to your execution. So these prophets now had to move with discretion, meaning now being wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. So let's read on here to verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, all right? That word wilderness is very important. The word wilderness, the best way that I can put it, all right, the word wilderness would be representing the city. The city. Now, the city is recognized as being a place where anything goes. Anything goes. And if anybody is familiar with the scenery of New York City back during the late 80s, I think around the mid to I'm going to say the early 1990s, they began to clean up 42nd Street. But New York City was like the Mecca, all right? The Mecca, where they had strip clubs, window dancing. They had these spots where they had bathhouses. They had these spots where you can actually pay and to see people have intercourse. You could, everything that you wanted to see, you can see it on 42nd Street in New York City. Not saying that this is only in New York City, but being that where I lived at, New York City was closest to me. And so as a young teenager, didn't know any better now, is that we will all go to New York to see this great talk about New York City. So the wilderness now represents a place where anything goes. The wilderness is Babylon. So we have now this messenger here now showing or taking who we have here now, John the Revelator, into the wilderness. He's actually now taking him into Babylon in the spirit now, taking him into Babylon, because at this point here, John the Revelator is on the island of Patmos for speaking out against the Roman Empire. And we have here now the messenger sharing with John the Revelator about the 7 churches now that are in Asia Minor. So there's a lot of poetic language that we see here. There's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of variables that needs to be looked at. And I do understand that there's a lot of brothers that have different perspectives on what is going on in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. But I'm holding 10 toes down that this wilderness is actually Babylon. Now, another supporting scripture that I have, all right, and we're going to get into these 2 coins here, is the book of Mark. The book of Mark, Matthew, Mark, then Luke, right? Let's go to the book of Mark, the 4th chapter. The 4th chapter, let me see, is it Mark, the 4th chapter? Maybe it's Matthew. Hold on 1 second, Mr. Carl. 1 second. Let me get this script for you right quick so we can make sure that everything falls in order. Yes, here it is here. The book of Matthew, the 4th chapter, the book of Matthew, the 4th chapter, and I'm going to read only verses 1 through 2, all right? Verses 1 through 2. Then the Mashiach was led up into the spirit, into the wilderness to be tempted of the adversary. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterwards a-hungered. So I just want to stop there because I want to get into today's lesson. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that the wilderness represents all of the so-called freedoms that you have in the world, where you can do your own thing. The right to choose, my body, my choice. I can be a transgender if I want. I don't have to follow law and order. All of that is entitled by definition to the word Babylon. Babylon means confusion, a place now that is unruly, and they do pretty much whatever it is that they want to do. But when you look at now the book of Matthew, the 4th chapter, and you read all the way down, it made mention now that there was someone, and I believe it's Nakash, the adversary, the whisperer, comes to the Mashiach at a point of his weakness where he just got finished fasting for 40 days and for 40 nights, and he shows now the Mashiach all the kingdoms of the world, and these things can be given to the Mashiach if he pays now obedience now to Nakash. All the kingdoms of the world, all of the riches of the world will be yours because it was given unto me. So this wilderness represents Babylon. This wilderness represents Rome. When this particular event is happening in the book of Matthew, the 4th chapter, this is during the 1st century. John the Revelator is on the island of Patmos during the 1st century. The Mashiach was led into the wilderness by the Holy Spirit, or the Ruach HaKodesh, and he was tempted. You have now in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, John the Revelator now, in the spirit now, is taken into the wilderness, and he's shown the great whore that sits on this beast. How is it, or how are you putting the pieces of the puzzle together so that we can understand or understand what is actually happening here in 2025? Let's go back to the book of Revelation. Again, let's make sure we leave no stone unturned on purpose. So, verse 3, so he carried me away in the spirit unto the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And we're going to talk about that here a little bit today, all right? So what we have here, Mr. Khan, let me move this icon here. What we have here, Mr. Khan, let me pull this up on my other screen. We have a coin. We have a coin, Mr. Khan, and this coin has a woman sitting on 7 mountains. This woman is sitting on 7 mountains. Now, the caption reads to the depiction that's on the far left, Sestertius, Vespasian, Roma, SC Roma, Tiber, Romus, and Remus. Now, when you look underneath the woman that is sitting upon the 7 hills, or the 7 mountains here, there is a jackal with 2 babies sucking the teats of this female jackal. Roman Empire, 27 BC to 395 AD. Now, on the far right, we see the same coin, but it's a lot more visual. This is Roma. The woman name is Roma. Roma, R-O-M-A, also known as Dear Roma. Revelation must have been written between 64 and 68 AD instead of between 90 and 100 CE. They call the Christianity or the Christian era. And that is also important, but I don't want to go too far into that. Okay, then whether or not, with Christians and all this other stuff, I believe that Constantine in 325 AD played this this hoax that he is now a Christian, which he was not a Christian. He was following Mithraism. And the battle at Milbridge Bridge is where he now has like this change of faith, because prior Constantine was killing AKA Christians, and he got this sign of the cross, and this sign of the cross, he's now going to pledge his allegiance to Christianity. But when we follow that history, we know that it's not true, because even after 325 AD, once Constantine got into his own heart again, he continued to kill Christians. All right, so we know that that was one big hoax. So, but again, in helping us to understand what is going on in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, verses 1 through 3, is that this woman is depicted of a woman sitting on 7 mountains, and the woman's name again is Dear Roma. Why this is extremely important is because when John the Revelator was on the island of Patmos, the reigning religion at that time in Asia Minor, Turkey now, was actually Dear Roma. Roma. And this is why John the Revelator was told about the issues that the Father had with those 7 churches. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, I have another depiction, because you know how people are. Listen, you need to bring out more information, or the best information possible, because one source of information is usually not good enough. All right, fine. And I get it. I truly, truly get it. So this next one here now is the 7 hills of Rome. And this coin, as we see today, is worth quite a bit of money. All right. So, but the guy on the far left-hand side, Mishpachah, is Vespasian. All right. Who ruled from around 69 to 79 AD. But let's get to the point here. We have Roma sitting on the right of the 7 hills of Rome, but on one side you have Vespasian. Okay, now propping head on hand and holding what they call now a parazonium. And a parazonium, Mishpachah, it was like a device that was used to determine right or wrong, or even in some cases whether or not a person should live or die. But it was an instrument used to make decisions. And we're going to go into that a little bit later on, how this goddess Roma morphed. Watch this now. It morphed into a lot of other different goddesses in history. So this goddess here, Dear Roma, or Roma, it doesn't make its first presence during the time of Vespasian or during the time of the 1st century. This deity, this goddess, has her beginnings way back during the time of Nimrod. It just so happens now is that whenever a nation conquers another nation, they take those gods and they add their own little twist to it, and it now becomes the god of that particular kingdom that is now ruling. But let's read on here. So to the left, she-wolf and twins. Okay, to the right, the river Tiber reclining left, holding a reed. I want to get to the point here because there's a lot of information about the coin. But good find is brassy brown and red brown surface, green and earthen deposits, porous, harshly clean, extremely rare. All known examples are struck from the same reverse die, indicating a very small output. That's not, okay, that's cool. But this reverse type was struck to celebrate the resurgent Rome from 68 to 69 excuse me, AD, when a civil war took its toll. But Rome was victorious under the capability leadership of Vespasian. While Galba had claimed that Rome was reborn, Vespasian linked to think of Rome as resurgent and victorious. This issue was initially limited to, let me get this word right here now, sesteri alone in the first and second emissions. So again, I just want to make sure that we understand the climate during the first century. Because if Israel during the first century is being occupied by this illegal regime, which are the Romans, we need to know who and what these people were doing. Meaning now, we need to understand the politics. We need to understand the God that they were worshiping. And because I believe that this will help us now to be able to read and understand the book of Revelation a lot clearer. Because like I said before, there's this ongoing movement called preterism, where they say that this is actually making a reference to Jerusalem. Now, I'm going to say it again. This is going to be like for the upteenth time or the 100th time. I do believe that Jerusalem is an adulterous woman, collectively as a nation, an adulterous woman. She was the one that made the covenant at Mount Sinai, and she broke those commandments. And so when a woman breaks wedlock, the penalty is death. And in this case now, we see these different captivities the nation of Israel keeps going through. So I'm not excusing Israel, but I just want to make sure that we put everything in its proper order. Once again, I want to make sure that everything gets placed in its proper order. Get a little tea break. All right, so let's continue on. Now, diaroma is what we have been talking about for the last couple of minutes here. Diaroma, sitting on 7 hills, refers to the allegorical depiction of the Roman goddess Roma, aka Diaroma, as a woman seated on the 7 hills upon which the city of Rome was built. Once again, on which the city of Rome was built. And those 7 hills are Palatine, Aventine, Capitoline, Galilean, Esquiline, Viminal, and Cornelial hills. This allegory is often used to symbolize the power and grandeur of ancient Rome. Now, a lot of this so far is recap. I would strongly suggest to keep up with the program. Meaning now is that if this is a part 4, then obviously there was a part 1, 2, and 3. There was even an intro to help everybody understand where I'm at today, But the narrative began with the preface now to Revelation, the 17th chapter, a few months ago. So in order to get the full view of what I'm trying to share here this morning, Mishpachah, you must follow the whole story. And once again, I'm asking you, if you can hit the like button, 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 all right? I really need to increase the algorithm here at Awakening Ministries, all right? So help a brother out here. Help a brother out. Now, let's see here. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? Okay. All right. Shalom, shalom. To Brother Obedient, J. Moncrief, and my good sister here, Sharon. Shalom, shalom. All right. So let's continue on. Key points about this imagery. Symbolic meaning. The 7 hills represent the foundation of Rome and its historical significance. Artistic representation. Coins from the Roman Empire often depict Dia Roma sitting on the 7 hills, making it a recognizable icon. I like that. Aristic representation. Coins from the Roman Empire often depicted Dia Roma sitting on the 7 hills, making it a recognizable icon. It's biblical connection. All right? It's biblical connection. In the book of Revelation, the woman sitting on 7 mountains is often interpreted as a reference to Rome. A reference to Rome. Rome. Further connecting the 7 hills imagery with the city. An image of Dia Roma on a sestertius of Emperor Vespasian shows her reclining on Rome's 7 hills with various accoutrements. All right. In this interpretation, the readers of the book of Revelation, familiar with the iconography of Rome's coins, would understand who was being referred to. And this is the reason why I'm inclined to believe that when you read Revelation, the 17th chapter, this is talking about a religion and the world's superpower at that time, which is the 4th beast, which is Rome. Rome, Rome. And I'm going to do it again. We're going to go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter. And I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do it again and again and again. 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter, verse, I think it's 15. It might be second. Is it 2 Peter? I thought it was 1 Peter. No, that's not it either, Mishpachah. It's 1 Peter 3:15, 3 and 5. Let's see. I have to get this. Let me see if I can pull up that scripture right quick. Give me 1 minute. 1 second. Let me pull it up. Okay, 1 Peter. First Peter 5:13. Excuse me. 1 Peter 5:13 is what we have. Yeah, here it is. 5:13. The church. This church is talking about one of the assemblies that was established in Torah. So this church now that was established in Torah, that is at Babylon. Elect together with you, salute you, and so doeth Marcus my son. This is Peter talking here. This is not talking about Babylon, the city. This Babylon here is a code word for Rome. Again, the church that is at Babylon, Babylon is Rome, elected together with you, salute you, and so doeth Marcus my son. Now, let's continue on. Now, we had talked about, let me pull this up here, get back to the slide here. We had talked about earlier Romulus and Remus, all right? Romulus and Remus. So in order for us to understand Revelation historically, because we have to tie in these biblical accounts, all right, these biblical accounts along with history. So in order to understand Revelation historically, what is this? We have a jackal with two infant boys sucking the breast, the teats of this jackal. What does all of this mean? And how is it relevant to Revelation? This imagery is depicted under the goddess Dea Roma, all right? Under the coin that we saw, Dea Roma. Let's see if we can pick up some information about this. Now, Romulus and Remus are twin brothers in Roman mythology who founded the city of Rome. The story of Romulus and Remus is a central part of Roman identity and has been since the 1st century AD. So I want everybody to notice what I'm doing here, all right? Pay very close attention to what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep everything 1st century. 1st century. So this was a 1st century ideology that was going on in Rome on how Rome even became who she was. What was her beginnings? And they're beginning it with this mythology understanding of Romulus and Remus. Now, the story is Rhea Silvia, she was the daughter of King Numitor, and she gave birth to Romulus and Remus. Now, Rhea's uncle, Amulus, overthrew King Numitor and forced Rhea to be a Vestal virgin, all right? A Vestal virgin. And a Vestal virgin is a woman or a young girl, like starting at at age 6 to around 12. They would pick these young girls who were virgins, and they would do temple services now to Dea Roma, these Roman goddesses. And we're going to talk about that, all right? I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but we need to understand also what is a Vestal virgin. Okay, so once again, Rhea's uncle Amulus overthrew King Numitor and forced Rhea to be a Vestal virgin to prevent her from having children. Rhea became pregnant anyway, and Amulus ordered the twins to be killed. The twins were placed in a basket and left in the Tiber River. A she-wolf found the twins, nursed them, and cared for them. A shepherd named Faustulus and his wife found the twins and raised them. Romulus and Remus grew up and eventually killed Romulus, founded the city of Rome and named it after himself. The significance now. The story of Romulus and Remus has been a core part of Roman identity since the 1st century AD. The image of the she-wolf nursing the twins is still an important symbol of Rome. very important history, I believe, that we should add to our armory when we begin to understand what was happening during the first century and who is that woman in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. Who is she? I say it is Babylon. Babylon, a geopolitical system that is operating geographically now, controlling land, sea, and air, taking control of import, export, trade, commerce, and hiding under a false umbrella called Christianity. What a geopolitical system does, it operates under politics. Politics always takes preference, in the wine that is intoxicating are the policies. Let's move on, all right? Let's move on. Vesta, all right? Talking about a Vestal virgin, Vesta. Vesta is the Roman goddess of the hearth, home, and family. She was worshipped in homes and in the temple of Vesta in the Roman Forum. Vesta's role, Vesta was a virgin goddess, and her priestess, the Vestal virgins, were also virgins. All right. So the Vestal virgins protected sacred relics and wills and has significant influence on Roman society. So they would be pretty much be known today as nuns. All right. Nuns, where nuns are supposed to be virgins, and they do services helping out the priests in the Roman Catholic Church, but it is important for them to be virgins. And the reason why I wanted, again, to bring this out is because what we have today, Mishpachah, is an extension of Rome during the first century, meaning that the spirit of Babylon did not come to an end in 70 AD. The spirit of Babylon has been working based upon definition since the time of the Garden of Eden. The spirit of Babylon has been in operation. The spirit of Babylon teaches and speaks against divine order. So the spirit of Babylon was upon Nakash when Nakash spoke with Ha'ava or Eve in the garden. It's called the spirit of Babylon. Let's read on. The third one now. The Vestal virgins were also known and managed property, a privilege not common for women at the time. The Vestal virgins had special privileges, such as being able to share the front places with senators and the ladies of the imperial house at games. Vestal festival. The Vista festival, called the Vestalia, Vista's festival, was one of the most important Roman holidays. It was celebrated from June the 7th to the 15th. Vesta's depiction. Vesta was often depicted as a fully draped woman, sometimes accompanied by her favorite animal, an ass. She was the patron deity of bakers, and her associated with fornax. The spirit of the baker's oven comes from under connection with the ass. Vesta's temple. The temple of Vesta was destroyed and rebuilt many times, including by the Gauls in 390 BC. So this Vesta celebration, observation, idol worshiping, Babylonian system in regards to Vesta has been in operation for a very long time. Very long time. So when you look at the coins during the first century, one side of the coin had Vespasian's head on it, and the other side had Roma Dea. Okay, and these women now that served in the temple had to be virgins. Had to be virgins. Mishpachar, it is important that we understand the history. So when we begin to talk about Babylon, I believe that it is very important for us to understand Babylonian history, being that Israel was in Babylon for 70 years. In order for us to understand the Medo-Persian Empire, because Israel was still under captivity under the Medo-Persian Empire, it's just that they had a lot more liberty because the 70 years was up and the Father poured out his Ruach on Cyrus, where Cyrus now was happy to oblige Israel in the rebuilding of the temple. In order for Israel to understand what was going on amongst the Greeks and what was the goddess at that time and the controlling territories that not Vespasian, but the guy as Alexander the Greek held at that time, because he was able to conquer the known New World at that time in less than 10 years. And then what happened with, as we know, with Vespasian, his situation came that when he died, because he didn't really have an heir, they said that he did have an heir. Some said that he did have an heir, but he was only like 10 years old and he got sick and died. So there's a lot of shadiness that's going on about Alexander and whether or not he actually did have an heir. But we do know that after Alexander died, that he had 4 generals and they were very close to Alexander, and his empire was divided amongst these 4 guys: Cassandra, Lysichamus, Seleucus, Ptolemy, and Cassandra got Macedonia and parts of Greece. Lysichamus got Thrace, Seleucus got Mesopotamia, and Ptolemy got Egypt. All right, so we all know that history there. So again, let's move on. Now, how deep does the rabbit hole really go in regards to the woman riding the beast? All right, how deep does this rabbit hole really go? Give me 1 second here, Mishpachar. 1 second here. Let me take a little tea break. Now, when we begin to look at Roma, or Dea Roma, if we begin to look at these Vestal virgins, and we begin to look at what was going on during the time of Nimrod, all right? Let me share something with you also as we do this presentation here. We're still in the morning, almost in the afternoon here. Is that by the time the first century is here, during the time of the Mashiach's ministry, that goddess Dea Roma had morphed. But morphed from what? To my far left, we have a woman riding a beast, a lion. She's riding a beast. This woman goes by another name, not Dea Roma. She goes by the names of Iana. She goes by the name of Isis. She goes by another name too, is Iana, Ashtaroth. There's a lot of names that she goes by. It all depends on what kingdom is ruling at the time. Now, during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, if you look at the far right-hand side, there's a stone statue of a beast, which is a lion, and there's a saddle, okay, on the side of the lion here. And that woman, for somehow it was broken off, but the slide on the far left-hand side is actually the picture on the right-hand side, but the woman is just not on top of the beast here. So what I'm just trying to share, once again, the woman riding the beast isn't a original concept that started during the first century. And you can only understand this if we read. Meaning now is that I am not restricted to reading the canonized books that we have. All right. I like to read and do research. And if it fits, it fits. All right. You can't deny that. I believe that whenever a person gives you canonized writings, or they say that you can only read from here to here, I believe that that's like a sense of control that the person is trying to have on you where you can't grow. Somebody has some information that is valuable and they don't want you to know it. And the reason why I believe they might not want you to know it is because it might expose who the real enemy is. Who is the real enemy? Now, looking at this depiction, on the left side, this woman, Ayana, is holding what we call, let me get this name again, all right? She is holding what we call a parazonium. A parazonium, all right? And if you remember now, in slide number 5, the woman that was sitting upon 7 hills held the same instrument. The same instrument. So it is a symbol of power. The same way we have the Statue of Liberty, which is an extension of this woman, Ayana. The Statue of Liberty, Lady Liberty, also known as Lady Liberus. And we'll go into that the next time we do a lesson. Mishpachah, you can't make this stuff up. But you can only gain this if you take the time and read what was history like during the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greeks, the Romans, and even today. It all fits like a hand in glove. Mishpachah, we are still under that Babylonian system that began in the Garden of Eden when Eve had the conversation with the adversary. Hands down, that's what I believe. All right, let's move on. We're almost done. Now, Mishpachah, my argument is this. The spirit of Babylon and some of her many origins, all right? The spirit of Babylon and some of her many origins. The book of Genesis. The book of Genesis, or the book of beginnings, in a well-known passage early within its pages, we find the beginning not only for humanity, but also the source of humankind's separation from its benevolent creator that took place in the Garden of Eden, all right? This is that Babylonian spirit that I have been talking about now for an hour. Now, the serpent now was more cunning than any beast of the field, which the sovereign Yahuah had made. And he said unto the woman, has Elohim indeed said, you should not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you should not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said unto the woman, you should not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. That is Babylon. That word good and evil, when we talk about Tov and Ra, that is a mixture. That is the wine. The truth mixed with a lie is the wine. It's not pure wine. It is it's actually a poison. So what the adversary offered Eve was true, but it came with consequences. So prior to this conversation that Eve had with the adversary, we have now only good. There is no Babylon. They're following Torah. The Babylonian spirit happened when we see the conversation now being held between Eve and the adversary. But let's move on. The words of the serpent in verse 5, for the mouth of a being who had already now rebelled against God, contained a motivating spirit of defiance. Babylon is a spirit of defiance. As the story unfolds, a promise of being just like God, able to choose for herself. My body, my choice. LGBTQ. My body, my choice. I don't recognize or respect the patriarchal system that the Father set up. My choice. I do whatever it is that I want to do, which now leads to disorder in the house. And at that time, the house was the Garden of Eden. Let's read on, because you can't make this stuff up, because I'm going to bring out some names here. Only thing that you would have to do, those of you that are listening, take your time and see whether or not your brother Kassad is telling the truth. Now, a promise of being just like God, able to choose for herself what is good and what is evil, sways the woman. The phrase good and evil is a merism, meaning that it includes everything in between those extremes. The serpent was promising Eve that she could choose and even experience for herself anything that she wanted. Anything that she wanted. The biblical story is the true account of Eden, but it is not the only account. I've already shared with you. What happens when we begin to read past the canonized writings that we were told to read, when we begin to understand what happened at the councils, plural, at Nicaea, and the councils of Trent, and how these writings were now actually canonized, the way that they were canonized now, to keep a people docile in this stupor, us fighting against one another. What if we understood who the real enemy is and was? Understanding the spirit of Babylon, past, present, and future. Let's read on. This biblical story is the true account of Eden, but it is not the only account. Another ancient description is penned by a Babylonian poet named Enheduanna. In her carnal depiction, we can glimpse an influential spirit that has endured for a millennium to ensnare the present Western world. So it is what was happening during the Babylonian Empire. The spirit of Babylon, it is still operating today. By contrasting the Babylonian version of Eden with the true God, we can better recognize the spirit of Babylon and why the Father, God, tells us to come out of her. And that's now in Revelation 18:4. And as you can see, I read Genesis 3:1-5 earlier. But let's read on. Some literary and historical scholars regard Enheduanna, a high priestess and daughter of a king, as the earliest known author and poet, best known for producing a collection of temple hymns used throughout Mesopotamia. She exerted considerable influences in the religion of the ancient world. She lived in the city state of Ur, which is where Abram came from. And the father shared with Abram, well, first his father Hiram to Terah to leave the city of Ur. All right. So what was the religion there, or the Babylonian system there in operation, where the father now calls out Abram or Abraham? Now, despite the days being uncertain, Abraham and Enheduanna likely lived in Ur at roughly the same time, with Enheduanna slightly predating Abraham. Excuse me. God called Abraham out of the very city and culture in which Enheduanna was a significant figure. Apart from hymns, Enheduanna is also known for the devotional writings of the goddess Inanna. And this was the woman that was riding the lion, which is a symbol of Babylon. Remember, it was symbolized by Daniel of being a lion with wings. And anybody that was interested, when you look at any historical findings, you will find that this lion had wings, lion's wings. And we know how those wings morphed into what we know today. When you read Second Ezra, I believe it is, where it makes mention where Ezra now is given a vision of the beast, which is the eagle, which is Rome, and America has this Roman symbol today, meaning the eagle. All right. So again, this is what my research is where it's bringing me to. All right. So again, apart from the hymns, Enheduanna is also known for her devotional writings to the goddess Inanna or Ayana, not a commonly recognized false deity. Inanna, the goddess of both war and erotic love, is better known by the names Ishtar. That was the other name that I was looking for. Ayana and Ishtar, aka Easter. Also, okay, I'll talk about it a little bit later. Astarte, Ashtaroth, Isis, and much later Venus. She embodied wild abandon and willfulness. And the word Venus now is where you get your word venereal disease. Venereal disease. Because these temple worshipings of these goddesses and gods, where they would have these huge, what you call them? They call them orgies. And where men with men, men with women, women with women, and all of this exchange of body fluids, all right? People got sexually transmitted diseases. But we don't say venereal diseases anymore. We call them STDs. But the word venereal disease comes from the goddess Venus due to the sexual orgies that took place in these shrines, these AKA holy places. Now, she embodied and abandoned and willfulness. We can readily see the spirit of Ayana now in the music videos of any number of pop charts of the recent past. Take, for example, like Madonna, Miley Cyrus, Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj, Rihanna, Sexy Red, Megan Thee Stallion. All of this here now is promoting my body, my choice. I'm not going to respect the male patriarchs of the family. It is my body. I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And the control mechanism that would be able to control all men would be what we call the quaba or the vagina. If you got the vagina, you could control the man. Now, the name Rihanna even means great queen or goddess. These women and their likes now, excuse me, that's not right. Anyway, the women and their likes are essentially channeling the spirit of Ayana. Channeling. They're invoking demonic spirits. These demonic spirits is the spirit of Babylon that can be found in today's music. Have you ever listened to how explicit women are talking about sex? They're very explicit of how they want not one man, but how they want to have intercourse with multiple men. This is the spirit of Babylon. But let's read on. In her poems, Enheduanna wrote about a place called Eden, or as they said, Eba, the Babylonian version of Eden. She describes Eba as a remote paradise, remote from Babylon. A place of harmony where animals live together in peace. This is about Eden now. Lush trees and abundant fruit. This is what we have in our Genesis account, which is true. Unlike the perspective of Genesis, the Babylonians did not regard this paradise as a desirable, but as inferior. So you say, why is that? They considered it now a place to reject and even defeat. Babylonians viewed this place, a peaceful abundance, as something a person should overcome as part of the process of personal growth. They thought that, I'm just going to call it Eden, all right? That Eden, with all its bounty, represented dependence, particularly on the Creator. So you see what's going on? This LGBTQ thing, my body, my choice. I don't need the man's permission for anything. Nothing. Because Babylon would even give its stamp of approval in divorcing or separating a marriage where the man doesn't need to be present. Don't need to be present. That is a Babylonian spirit. And so whether it's a man or a woman, go to the courts, which is Babylon. And that man or that woman don't have to be there. And America, which is an extension of Rome, which is Babylon, can decree it lawful in their eyes based upon their rules and regulations. Mishpachah, that is Babylon. And I'm reading it right here. Babylon viewed this place of peaceful abundance as something a person should overcome as part of the process of personal growth. They thought that Eden, with all its bounty, represented dependence, particularly on the Creator. On the Creator. Which is contrary to personal freedom and self-determination. I'm not making this up. The Babylonians placed an extremely high value on civilization. In the Edenic garden, however, the individuals was dependent on the cycles of nature and natural law. The Babylonians considered civilization to be a way that a person should escape dependence and determine his or her destiny apart from the natural world. Remember Beyonce in Destiny's Child, a group of all women. Ladies rule the world. Again, my body, my choice. I don't need to be under the authority of a man. I can do my own thing. I have a mind. I'm not no child. Yeah, this is what you hear. But whenever a man tries to set back order in his household, the scapegoat that a lot of women use, oh, I'm not a child. Well, I never said you were a child. But the household is going out of order. And it's the patriarch's responsibility to bring the house back in order. So what I'm saying and what other brothers are saying and sisters are saying, this is not being said out of a vacuum. This is documented history that began years ago, during the time of Abram, during the time of Nimrod, during the time of the land of Ur. But let's read on. Let's read on. We're almost done. Where are we at here? They also believe that the supreme deity held a grudge against them because of their civilization's accomplishments. They saw the supreme deity as oppressive. And this is what Nakash shared with Eve. That the supreme deity is oppressive, believing that he worked to limit human potential and prohibited humanity from determining its own destiny through the advancement of civilization, a possible reference to his intervention in both the flood and the Tower of Babel. So what they're saying here now is that God got jealous. Got jealous, and so what he did now was that he brought forth the deluge, the flood, and he destroyed the Tower of Babel. No, he brought about the Tower of Babel, the gateway of God. The word Babel means gateway of God. But he brought about the confusion of the language because he was jealous of the growth of mankind. Hey, I want to thank everybody. Now, we got 5 likes here. I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. All right. Continue to watch. We're almost done here. I believe that the information that I'm sharing here is important information. And if you haven't yet, please hit the like button. Hit the like button and even hit the share button. Okay. All of the likes that I see, we got 5 likes here so far. Hit the share button also. All right. Share it with your family and friends. So again, we'll be done in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes because we're going to have my brother Men Going God's Way coming up at 2 o'clock. So let's finish this up now by 12:30. Now, at this point, the goddess Iana or Inanna returns to the story, and Duana describes how Iana overcomes Eden, how she defeats the garden of God through asserting her independence and her absolute right to self-determination. And Duana expresses this point by demonstrating Iana's freedom from any constraint. Watch this now. Iana's freedom from any constraint. So being under the Godhead, the supreme deity now is a form of constraint. Really. She can be good or bad. Okay, but above all, she can do anything she wants. Whereas Eden represents yielding to divine control. Iana conquers this by appropriating to herself the right to complete freedom to determine her own conduct. In one of Duana's poems, she praises Iana with these words: to destroy Iana, to build Iana, to lift up Iana, to put down Iana are yours, Inanna. She asserted that Inanna already possesses these rights innately, whereas in reality, they belong only to the Most High God. Hallelujah. He at times gives you authority to his servants. For example, he tells Jeremiah, Behold, I will put my words in your mouth. See, I have set this day you over the nations and over the kings, to root out and to pull down, to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. And that's in the book of Jeremiah, the first chapter, verses 9 through 10. Read it at your convenience. Because of time, I'm going to, I want to kind of shut this down here. Now, according to the poet, though the goddess Inanna possesses the authority without any reference to the supreme deity God. Hold on one quick second here. Let's take a little sippy of the tea here. Okay. And this is the last slide here, and I'll pick up again, if it be the Father's will, next week. Now, the poem continues, proving there is nothing new under the sun. To turn man into woman, woman into man, or yours in honor. That's transgenderism. Lesbian, gays, LGBT. Now that's lesbian, gays, LGBT. What's that? Bisexual, LGBT, transvestites, Q. I think Q is for queers or queens. No, excuse me. Yeah, queers or queen. I believe that's what that stands for. But she has the right to turn man into a woman, or a woman into a man, or yours in Nana. This poem is 4,300 years old, give or take. Yet it is describing something that is all the rage activating today. The media herald transgenderism as new and progressive, but the spirit behind the perversion of the natural order is very, very old. The spirit is now gaining influence and wreaking havoc on new civilization, one that has the knowledge and technology to do gender reassignment surgeries and hormone therapies. Changing a man to a woman to a man. Remember, Inanna's actions are part of overcoming Eden. There, the Father created humanity, male and female, Genesis 1:27, and established the institution of marriage in Genesis 2:22-24. But to overcome Eden, Inanna must oppose all aspects of the divine order. The divine order of male and female, the divine order of a patriarchal system, and Anna's goal is to destroy Hebrew marriages. But to overcome Eden, Inanna must oppose all aspects of the divine order. So she takes to herself the right to be constrained, not to be constrained even by gender. Now, Wikipedia points out that not only was temple prostitution a major part of her worship, and many originated with her, but also that persons or asexual or hermaphrodite bodies and effeminate men, gays, effeminate men were particularly involved in her worship. Remember this group called, I think they were called YMCA, where it was a bunch of men dressed in drag. But anyway, Anna was the champion of overturning the social order that was established in the Garden of Eden. And Mishpachah, with me reading Revelation, the 17th chapter, I'm doing 2 chapters at one time. I'm doing Revelation, the 17th chapter and Revelation, the 18th chapter together. And even though we're only we're about to go into the 4th verse next week, I've actually covered 90% of Revelation, the 17th chapter, by just going through verses 1 through 3. And the way that I did it, we're looking at the prelude, and only on verse 4, I basically, again, covered everything. And what I'm doing now is basically just elaborating on things that I've already spoke about, all right? And that are already talked about in the book of Revelation. So, Mishpachah, I pray that this lesson has been a blessing to you. Okay, all esteem to the Father of Yahuah for his love, his mercy, his kindness that he has been bestowing upon the nation of Israel. I pray that each and every one of you have a blessed day, all right? A blessed day. Continue to work towards the goal, and the goal is to be in divine relationship with the Father. And with that, Mishpachah, let me check and see if there's any questions or anything like that. Or if there's anybody that wanted to add anything before I close the show. All right. Let's see here. Give me a second. Let me pull up and see if there's anything. Okay, I don't see any questions or anything like that. So, Mishpachah, what I'm going to do is I want to say shalom, shalom. May the Father continue to bless you. And until the next time, shalom, shalom.